You have probably been doing the same 3 or 4 glute exercises for years and wondering why nothing is changing. That is not your fault. The fitness industry loves to recycle the same handful of movements over and over again, and most people never discover the variations that actually force new muscle growth. Today I'm going to show you 5 dumbbell exercises that almost nobody does, and each one targets your glutes in a way that standard movements simply cannot. These are not gimmicks. These are not Instagram tricks. These are biomechanically sound exercises that create tension in your glutes at angles you have never trained before. And when you start using them, the difference in how your glutes look and perform is going to shock you. Stick around through the entire video, because the last exercise on this list is the single most underrated glute builder I have ever programmed for a client. So before we dive in, let me explain why most people struggle to grow their glutes even when they think they are doing everything right. The glutes are made up of 3 muscles. You have the gluteus maximus, the gluteus medius, and the gluteus minimus. Most people only train one of those in one plane of motion. They do hip thrusts, squats, maybe some lunges, and they call it a day. The problem is that the glutes are designed to work in multiple planes. They extend the hip, they abduct the leg, they externally rotate the femur, and they stabilize the pelvis. If you are only training hip extension, you are leaving an enormous amount of growth on the table. The exercises I am about to show you hit all 3 of those functions. And because they use dumbbells, you can do every single one of them in a home gym or a crowded commercial gym without waiting for a single machine. Exercise number 1 is the dumbbell kickstand Romanian deadlift with a contralateral load. Now, I know that sounds complicated, but stay with me because this is a game changer. A regular Romanian deadlift is fantastic. We all know that. But when you stand on both feet evenly, your glutes share the work with your hamstrings and your lower back pretty equally. The kickstand variation changes that entirely. Here is how you set it up. You hold a single dumbbell in the hand opposite to your working leg. So if your left leg is the one doing most of the work, the dumbbell goes in your right hand. Your right foot stays behind you with just the toes touching the ground for balance. Now hinge at the hips, pushing them back while keeping your spine neutral. What happens is remarkable. The offset load creates a rotational demand on your body, and your glute medius on the working side has to fire like crazy to keep your pelvis from rotating. Meanwhile, the glute maximus on that same side is handling the majority of the hip extension because your back leg is barely contributing. You get a massive stretch at the bottom and an intense contraction at the top. Do 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps per side, and I promise your glutes will be talking to you the next morning. Exercise number 2 is something I call the dumbbell frog pump. This one looks a little strange the first time you see it, and you might feel a bit awkward doing it in a public gym, but the results speak for themselves. Lie on your back, bring the soles of your feet together so your knees fall out to the sides like a butterfly stretch. Place a dumbbell right on your lap, just below your hip bones. Now drive your hips up toward the ceiling by squeezing your glutes as hard as you possibly can. The key here is what the foot position does to your hip mechanics. When your feet are together and your knees are out, your adductors are taken almost completely out of the equation. Your hamstrings are at a mechanical disadvantage because of the knee angle. That means your glutes have no choice but to handle nearly all of the load. This exercise creates an isolation effect that rivals any machine in the gym. Go lighter than you think you need to on this one. Focus on squeezing at the top and holding for a full 2 seconds. 4 sets of 15 reps will absolutely set your glutes on fire. Now let us talk about exercise number 3, the dumbbell deficit curtsy lunge. Regular lunges are fine, reverse lunges are better, but the curtsy lunge is special because it introduces a crossover pattern that puts your gluteus medius under serious load. And when you add a deficit, you increase the range of motion, which means more time under tension and a deeper stretch on the working glute. Stand on a low step or a weight plate with a dumbbell in each hand. Step your right foot behind and to the left of your body, crossing behind your left leg as if you were performing a curtsy. Lower yourself until your back knee nearly touches the floor. Keep your torso upright and your front knee tracking over your toes. Then drive back up through your front heel. The magic of this exercise is in that cross-body movement. Your glute medius has to work overtime to stabilize your pelvis, while the glute maximus handles the extension. Most people have never challenged their glutes in this diagonal pattern, and that novelty is exactly what triggers new growth. 3 sets of 8 to 10 per side with a controlled tempo will do the trick. Exercise number 4 is the dumbbell single leg hip thrust with a pause. I know what you are thinking. Hip thrusts are one of the most common glute exercises out there. And you are right, but this version is completely different because of 2 modifications that change the stimulus dramatically. First, you are using one leg at a time. That immediately doubles the demand on each glute. Second, you are pausing at the top for 3 full seconds. That pause eliminates momentum and forces your glute to sustain a maximal contraction under load. Set your upper back against a bench, plant one foot on the floor with your knee at roughly 90 degrees, and let the other leg extend straight out in front of you. Place a dumbbell on the hip of your working leg. Now drive up, squeeze hard, and hold. Count to 3, then lower slowly. The temptation is going to be to rush through these, but resist that urge. The pause is where the growth happens. Your glute has to recruit its deepest motor units to maintain that position, and that deep recruitment is what most standard exercises fail to achieve. Aim for 3 sets of 8 per side and focus on quality over everything else. And now we arrive at exercise number 5, the one I told you about at the beginning. This is the dumbbell sumo stance step up, and I genuinely believe it is one of the most underutilized glute exercises in existence. You need a bench or a sturdy box that is about knee height. Stand facing the bench in a wide sumo stance with your toes pointed slightly outward. Hold a dumbbell goblet style at your chest. Now step up onto the bench with your right foot, but here is the critical part. Do not push off with your left foot. Let your right glute do all of the work to pull your body onto the bench. Stand all the way up, squeeze your glute at the top, then lower yourself back down slowly, taking 3 to 4 seconds on the way down. The sumo stance changes the hip angle so that your glute maximus operates from a position of external rotation. This recruits fibers in the upper portion of the glute that most exercises miss entirely. And the eccentric lowering phase, that slow descent, creates the kind of muscle damage that is associated with hypertrophy. This exercise builds the upper shelf of the glute that gives it that full, rounded appearance. 3 sets of 10 per side, and you will feel every single fiber working. Now that you have all 5 exercises, let me talk about how to actually incorporate them into your training so you get the best results. You do not need to do all 5 in a single session. In fact, I would recommend picking 2 or 3 and rotating them throughout your training week. If you train glutes twice a week, which is the frequency most supported by the research for hypertrophy, you could do exercises 1, 2, and 3 on your first day, and exercises 4 and 5 on your second day. The following week, switch the groupings around. This rotation keeps the stimulus fresh, which matters because the body adapts quickly to repeated patterns. The novelty factor is a real driver of muscle growth, and these exercises provide exactly that. Let me also address the weight selection question, because I know a lot of people are going to wonder how heavy they should go. My general recommendation is to start lighter than your ego wants you to. These exercises challenge stability and balance in ways that your standard bilateral movements do not. If you load them too aggressively before your stabilizers are ready, you risk compensating with your lower back, and that defeats the entire purpose. Spend the first 2 weeks with moderate weights, perfecting your form and really feeling the glute contraction. After that, progressively increase the load each week. The principle of progressive overload still applies. You need to challenge the muscle with increasing demand over time. But form is non-negotiable. A perfectly executed rep with a 20-pound dumbbell will build more glute muscle than a sloppy rep with a 50-pound dumbbell every single time. I also want to touch on the mind-muscle connection because it matters enormously for glute training. The glutes are a muscle group that many people struggle to activate. Years of sitting at desks and relying on quad-dominant movement patterns have left a lot of people with what some coaches call gluteal amnesia. Your brain has literally forgotten how to fire those muscles efficiently. Before every set of every exercise in this video, I want you to take a moment and consciously think about your glutes. Visualize them contracting. Feel the squeeze. This is not woo-woo pseudoscience. Research has shown that internal focus of attention, meaning thinking about the muscle you are trying to work, significantly increases activation of that muscle during resistance training. It works. Use it. One more thing I want to mention is the importance of the eccentric phase. I referenced it with the sumo stance step up, but it applies to all 5 of these exercises. The lowering portion of each movement, that is where a tremendous amount of the hypertrophic stimulus occurs. Eccentric contractions create microscopic damage in the muscle fibers, And when your body repairs that damage, the muscle comes back thicker and stronger. Most people rush through the eccentric phase. They let gravity do the work. That is a mistake. On every single one of these exercises, take at least 2 to 3 seconds to lower the weight. Control it the entire way down. You will feel the difference immediately, and over time, your results will accelerate dramatically. Let us also talk briefly about what to do on the days you are not training glutes directly. Recovery is where growth actually happens. Your training provides the stimulus, but the repair and adaptation process occurs when you are resting. Make sure you are sleeping 7 to 9 hours per night. Make sure your protein intake is adequate, roughly 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight per day, and do not neglect overall caloric intake. You cannot build muscle in a significant deficit. If growing your glutes is the priority, you need to be eating enough to support that process. I have seen these 5 exercises produce incredible results for clients who had been stuck for months or even years doing the same basic movements. The common theme among all of them is that they challenge the glutes through angles and patterns that standard exercises ignore. The Kickstand Romanian deadlift hits the glute from a stability and anti-rotation perspective. The frog pump isolates the glute max in a way that few movements can match. The deficit Curtsy lunge introduces a lateral and crossover stimulus that fires the medius like nothing else. The single leg hip thrust with a pause forces deep motor unit recruitment through sustained contraction. And the Sumo stance step up targets the upper glute through external rotation and eccentric loading. Together, they give you comprehensive, 3-dimensional glute development that you simply cannot get from squats and hip thrusts alone. If you are serious about building stronger, more developed glutes, add these into your program this week. Give them at least 6 to 8 weeks of consistent effort with progressive overload. And take progress photos so you can actually see the changes happening. The mirror lies to you every day because the changes are gradual, but photos do not lie. You will be amazed at what these exercises can do when you commit to them fully. Now, if you are over 40 and wondering how to apply principles like these to your entire training program, I have something that is going to help you enormously. As you age, your approach to building muscle needs to shift in specific ways, and getting that right is the difference between making serious gains and spinning your wheels. Watch the video that is on your screen right now because it covers everything you need to know about gaining size and strength in your 40s.